conversation with the Venus Project. We're going to remove this screen and have Jacque and Roxanne come up, and we're going to address some issues. Then we're going to have a massive Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, Jacque, Fresco, and Roxanne Meadows. How you doing, Jacque? Good. We're going to make sure everyone can hear you. A little test here.
Can you hear me back there?
You got an air on it? Yeah, try to speak directly into the mic.
Yeah.
So I have some basic questions that I wanted to get out of the way before we have the Q&A, because I think these are the most dominant questions that people tend to ask. And I wanted to talk to Jacque about his life experiences and what you've gone through in your life to come to the conclusions that you have in regards to your ideas. So what are the life experiences that have influenced your life, or the most dominant ones?
I'll try to compress it.
Sure.
My grandfather made it impossible for me to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. He told me that people came from all over the world and brought wonderful ideas to this country and made it what it is today. So I could not pledge allegiance to the flag. I wanted to pledge allegiance to the earth and all the people on it. Also, in school, when I refused to pledge allegiance to the flag, the teacher grabbed me by the ear right to the principal's office. And she said, he doesn't want to pledge allegiance to the flag. The principal said to the teacher, you're excused. After she left, he put his arm around me and he said, why? Everybody does. I said, everybody once believed the earth was flat. That doesn't make it flat. So he said, well, what do you think of American history? I said, it's strictly BS, bad science. Because the people in history books always did the right thing. They always said the right thing, and there's no such people. People make mistakes, poor judgments, they would appear real, but my history books did not appear real. So I told that to the principal, and he said, I'm going to have to call your mother in. Well, my mother comes in weeping. What did he do? The principal said he didn't do anything, but he doesn't accept our teaching methods, and he doesn't accept a lot about our government. So I'm going to buy him the kind of books he wants to read, and I'm going to rope off the back of the class and let him do what he wants to do. Well, this is very unusual. He used his own money for that, not public funds. Of course, to say, or needless to say, I was beaten up by many of the kids in the class. They didn't like this special privilege. I didn't arrange that. The principal did. I was not evil or mean to anyone, but I can understand their position of seeing one person selected to do what they want to do. This, in turn, gave me a lot of freedom to read what I want to read. And I discussed some of these ideas with the principal. That went on for 1.5 years, and the principal died. And that time I played hooky for 6 weeks. The truant officer caught up with me, and he said, "You haven't been to school for a month." I said, 6 weeks. That's right. What do you do when you're not in school? I go to the library and read what I want to read. I go to the science museum and I do what I want to do. He said, "What do you do at home?" I said, "I have a little lab." He said, "Can I see it?" I said, "Only if you don't tell my mother who you are." He agreed to that. And when he saw what I was doing in the lab, he said, "Look, I can't criticize what you're doing. I don't blame you for not going to school. You can do me a favor, show up Monday, and then you can play hooky again." Well, I did that, and I never went back to school. I read what I wanted to read, and I did what I wanted to do. And I got information in a very different way. This is during the Depression, the last big depression, the 29 crash, or the 1930 crash. And at that time, 15 million Americans were sleeping in every empty lot. And that bothered me because there were things in store windows, they just didn't have the money. They bought houses and cars, and the banks failed. So they couldn't pay them off, and they were kicked out of their houses. But the sun was out, and things were in store windows. It's just that people didn't have the money. So in my own mind, I said, this shit has got to go. There's something wrong. Airplanes dropped signs that said, "Come to California. There are lots of jobs." So I hitchhiked to California. On the way, this woman comes up in a brand new car, and she opened the door part of the way. And she said, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "What else?" She said, "Get in the car." And of course I fell asleep. I was so tired from walking and hiking. And she poked me in the ribs and said, "You're not sleeping in my car." I said, "What do you want me to do?" She said, "I want you to sing all the way to Texas. Jesus loved me, that I know, 'cause the Bible tells me so." I had to sing all the way to Texas. And so my background was very different than the average person. And when I got to California, there were thousands of people lined up for jobs. Would you work for 8 cents an hour? Would you work for 7 cents an hour? They brought people out there to get the lowest bid. And it was not a sane society, nor were people intelligent at the time. I went to an aircraft factory, it says the Northrop Division of Douglas. I said, "I'd like a job here." They said, "What are your credentials?" I said, "I don't have any." "Do you know drafting, engineering? Do you know aircraft structures?" I said, "No." They said, "We can't hire you." So I showed them some of my drawings. They said, "You're hired." So